organize the structure of the organization. There's a lot to be said about that with multiple different ways you can actually build your organization to better serve your clients. It depends upon what your business is. You want to have a thing called span of control. In other words, for a supervisor, how many people in areas do they supervise? Sometimes, typically, 6 is pretty common. You supervise 6 people. I had a job one time, I supervised 52 people. I didn't know if I was coming or going, depends on the day of the week. That's a lot of people. So I got an assistant in the process. So between the two of us, oh, we only did about 26 apiece. Actually, I did 40 and he did 12. Okay, but they were bus drivers. They're really tough. Okay, so that being said, between all that, it depends on the span of control. Sometimes if you have homogeneous workforce, in other words, everybody does pretty much exactly the same job, it isn't that hard to supervise 20 people because you can sit down and deal with the same kind of problems for each employee. But when you start having different kinds of job descriptions, one person is working on a turret length over here, one of them is lining a tank over here, one's building electronic controls, it becomes very confusing. And as a supervisor, you might have a really hard time having a large span of control. So the span of control plays a big role, especially when we talk in just a minute about tall versus flat organizations. So it's a big thing. A tall organization structure, probably the most predominant one that we hear about today is either the military or Amazon, one and the same. Okay, so you have a person in charge of this, a person in charge of this, one in charge of this, and then the person's in charge of that person, and you have a tall organization with a lot of people all lined up as to who's in charge of what manager, in charge of what leader, in charge of what director, in charge of so on as you go through. But a lot of times you hear about a flat organization structure. There's a big difference between the two. When you talk about a flat organization structure, that means that you don't have a lot of managers. One manager may supervise 20 people. What that means is a couple things. Number one, the manager better really know their stuff. Number two, the people, the 20 people better know their stuff too. That also means you need to have additional staff development money allocated to make sure everybody is delivering good quality uniform satisfaction to the customers in the process. So if you want a flat organization, they sound really cool. Hey, we're going to have a flat organization. You better know your stuff, and you better make certain your employees know their stuff, because you're pushing decision making down to the people closest to the customers. And that really is a very positive thing. But you also need to have a uniform way of making certain people are delivering the same type of service, same type of product each time. So tall versus flat organization, a lot of times we have departmentalization as you go through too. So you organize it by people in different departments and they handle different things. That being said, the advantages, employees develop skills and they progress within the department as they master their skills. They can start over here as almost an apprentice and they work their way up to the very top. And then also they may work their way into management as they go through as well. You can achieve economies of scale. Remember that if you have departmentalization, you can have a vast amount of product for the one job and you save a lot of money in the process. So disadvantages, a lot of times departments may not communicate well. They end up developing what we call silos. A silo, if you go out into the farm community, you'll see big, tall structures, and they have wheat in one silo. They have corn in another silo. They have another product in another silo, and the silos don't communicate to each other because they're made of solid concrete. The same holds true with departmentalization. Sometimes people don't talk marketing. You know what? Those people in accounting, they don't get us. We like to have free reign because we're marketing people. We're wild. We're crazy. The kind of people, those marketing people, they are crazy. They're nuts. They don't follow any process, any procedure. And manufacturing says, you know what? Both those departments are crazy. We're the ones that build the stuff. And those marketing people don't even know what they're trying to sell. And of all things, accounting people who can count on accounting people. Did you kind of get that pun? That was kind of fun. Anyway, so that being said, they have different things. Departmentalization is good and it's bad. It just depends on the day. Here's a guy who's inflating footballs. You might say he's full of hot air. How else do you fill up a football? I thought you'd get a kick out of that, so to speak. Did I score a goal there or not? I don't know. But anyway, he's in football. So he's got a pigskin on top of it. So that means that he's out there and he's lacing them all up, each one individually. You think he'd go straight across, or does he do that zigzag thing as you go through and you lace your shoes up? Anyway, so departmentalization as you go through. There's 6 ways to structure an organization in general terms. You have a line organization where there's a clear delineation of who's in charge. The only one that really is truly like that is the military. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Wait a minute. Call the ma'am, sirs. How does that work? I get confused in the process. And then you have a line and staff. Let's go through these and look at this. Here's a simple line and staff. A staff person doesn't really supervise the people. So here you got human resources. It's placed relatively high up in the organization, but you'll see that they don't directly supervise the supervisors. They sit down and they consult, they tell, they advise, because of the fact that the supervisor actually is in charge of the employees. So the human resource department may have to deal with issues that deal with the supervisor's employees, but a lot of times they go to the plant manager or the supervisor themselves before they talk to the actual employee, because they're not directly in charge of them. Same thing with the legal department. They're not in charge of the supervisors. They advise the supervisors, and the supervisor makes the decisions in the process. The people on solid lines, that's why I call them a line person, they're direct supervisors. The staff people, they're normally notated on an organization chart with a dotted line as you go through, because they're staff or advisory type of employees as you go through. Then you have these models, we call it matrix organizations. This is where they made the crazy series of movies called The Matrix. Not really, but it sounds good in this kind of class. A matrix organization. You'll see over here, you have like the vice president of project management over there. And so some of their employees, they may actually report across the organization and up and down. It can become very confusing. So project manager 1 has a project, but they may involve marketing, manufacturing, and financial all working together on a team. Project manager 2, they might have a buyer over here in manufacturing. They may have another one in this division over here, another one. So you'll have people that have a direct line reporting structure up and down within their department, but they may be allocated to a different project as they go through to work as a team. We call those matrix organizations. A lot of advantages is there's a lot of flexibility in assigning people to projects, okay, rather than staying in a department. And you also have a lot of inter-organization cooperation. So that way you have a lot of cross-training, a lot of cross-knowledge to go through, but it's costly. It can be very complex because an employee may have 1, 2, 3, or even 4 different bosses, and which one do they do and they talk to and respond to first in the process? It takes a lot of good interpersonal skill, and a lot of cooperative employees are a must to make this happen. Cross-functional managed teams, they're employees from different departments. They work together on a really long-term basis. So they're chosen because their skills here, here, here. Boy, let's work on doing that process you go through. Here's a cross-functional management team. There's a doctor, nurses, and anesthesiologists. You have different people, and sometimes they work a long time in the same type of environment as, boom, this team over here, my team over here, my team over here. So there's self-managed team as you go through. So we talk about organizing the structure. There's a tall organization, which is very hierarchical, where we have a lot of managers, to a flat organization where they really plan on trying to push decision-making down to the lowest level, so where the employee talks to the customer and client. Span of control is how many people report to the individual manager: 6, 10, 20, 50. And the matrix is where you have people, they sit down and they may work in a division and on a project as part of a team all at the same time. And you also have cross-functional teams where people have different skills as a team and they move together as an organization. And always remember the term line and staff is kicked around an awful lot in a lot of organizations in the process. Take care.